Anyways, you're listening to the Morning Buzz here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. I am Josh, aka Josh, host of the Thursday Buzz. I am here with my co-host
Kenny Horn. I've said it every single week. I'm working on the nickname. I'm trying, guys. I promise I'm trying. But we also have our news contributor,
Ryan, aka Breda. I like that. That could work. That could
Why can't
work.
I think of anything? That's all right. That works.
It could. I mean, just came to my head now, so I just had to throw it out there.
It's better than nothing.
True. That's true.
All right. We're also joined by our sportscaster.
Hello, I'm Tom, and I'm the sports contributor. You could just simply call me Tommy.
Tommy Bavaro, our sports contributor.
Keeping it simple.
Yep, keeping it simple like always.
How'd you guys like my little speaker voice? I realized I had the headphone volume low, and I couldn't hear you guys.
That was crazy. Like the fact that we know we got the dates for graduation. That's a good way to start off the show.
It reminded me of high school, so I wasn't too happy.
That's the goal.
It actually kind of reminded me of like a Disney commercial.
I was working on my little speaker amplifier voice last night.
That's right.
Recording in the shower, just like talking to yourself.
Right.
My roommate's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Don't worry about me."
The Village bathroom echo. Anyway.
Yeah, but let me give you the dates. Montclair State University, this is an email sent out to all students from administration, will hold its 2021 commencement ceremonies on campus between Monday, June 7th and Saturday, June 19th. So, exciting. Us seniors will get our little shindig, our little ceremony to
How you feeling
celebrate.
getting close? Oh, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. How do you feel getting close to graduation, Josh?
It doesn't really feel real yet. I'm sure a panic or a euphoria will set in eventually as we get closer to D-Day or G-Day. But that's neither here nor there. But what is here, ready to give a newscast, it's Ryan Breda.
Well, thank you, Josh. And good morning, Morning Buzz listeners. This is Ryan Breda giving you this morning's top news stories. On late Wednesday night, the House of Representatives passed a sweeping voting rights expansion that would create new national requirements that include mandating automatic voter registration, expanding early and mail-in voting, and restoring voting rights for former felons. Studies have suggested that the bill proposed by House Democrats would increase voter participation, especially within racial minority groups. The bill does, however, face an uphill battle in the Senate. Governor Phil Murphy at his coronavirus press briefing on Wednesday said that he expects COVID-19 vaccination openings to, quote, explode by Easter due to the state's expanding of vaccine eligibility for the end of March. Not only will teachers and essential workers be eligible for the vaccine, but people ages 16 to 64 with conditions such as asthma and high blood pressure will also be eligible due to a higher chance of serious COVID-19 infections within those groups. New Jersey has administered just about 2 million doses of the vaccine as of Wednesday. In Montclair news, authorities announced on Tuesday that a Montclair man was arrested for attempting to lure a 16-year-old boy to the town for indecent activities. 67-year-old Keith Mathis was arrested at his home on Monday as the Division of Criminal Justice revealed that Mathis engaged in obscene chats with multiple users he believed were under 16 years old. Attorney General Gerbert Giral said the allegations raised concerns about other potential victims. Currently in Montclair, it is partly cloudy and 36 degrees with a high temperature for today being 40 degrees with a low temperature of 21. That's it for this morning's top stories. This is Ryan Breda reporting for WMSC 90.3 Upper Montclair.
Man, you always kill that. I love your voice.
Oh, thank you guys. I really appreciate that. I don't like my voice sometimes, but it's okay.
Does anybody really like their voice?
You'll get used to it. And let me tell you, I used to hate my voice when I was a wee lad, a freshman, and even into sophomore. But after recording for hours and hours and listening to it, doing different voices and whatnot, you get used to it.
Well, is it really liking your own voice if you're doing different voices?
No, that's why I did the different voices. But eventually I did my own voice.
You're thinking outside the
But then
six-sided square.
you have to realize that all these extensions of yourself are really just you.
Yes.
The opportunities are endless.
The power was
Zuko,
within
all
us.
these extensions of yourself.
Zuko, you have to look inside and start asking the real questions. Why are the shuttles so bad? And when is Tommy going to do his sportscast?
Now that you mention it, I'll be doing that right now. Thanks. Well, thank you guys for that quite hilarious start. So, all right, but in all seriousness, let's get to the sportscast. So, it's Tommy Bavar reporting for Sportscast for today. So, to start off with today's sportscast, we go on to the 2021 spring training. The Mets lost to the Cardinals yesterday by a score of 9-14. The Mets played the Washington Nationals today at 1:10 p.m. Yankees and Phillies played today at 1:05 p.m. Yankees announced yesterday that manager Aaron Boone will be taking a leave of absence after recovering from pacemaker surgery. Boone remains in great shape following his surgery. Going into the NBA, the 76ers took out the Utah Jazz in overtime last night by a final score of 131-123. The Nets beat the Houston Rockets on the road last night by a score of 132-114. It was James Harden's first game in Houston following his trade earlier this season. The Knicks are back on the Garden tonight, taking on the Detroit Pistons at 7:30 p.m. And in the NHL, all local teams play tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. The Devils host the Rangers at Prudential Center. Islanders host the Buffalo Sabres, and the Philadelphia Flyers continue their series on the road against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that concludes your quick sportscast for today. Back to you guys.
I liked it.
Thank you, Tommy. I accidentally hit the off button on my mic to try to turn it on again, but it didn't work.
I was like, what's going on back there? Are you guys good or something?
Yeah, just a little inside information for all these listeners that can't see us. And I mean, you guys can't see this, but somebody left some coins in the office. There's about $1.15.
Do we have some gold
on
coins?
the desk.
I'm broke. Can I have it?
I mean, you want to drive all the way? I know you live far away, Kenny. I don't know if it's worth it. I think the tolls are more than what you're gonna get here.
I can figure it out. That'll make me worth like $1.15. So I'll feel pretty good.
Pay for his toll back.
Wait, hold up. I lied. It's 95
Is it a gold coins?
How much?
Is it gold
How much
coins?
is it?
95 cents.
Oh well.
I thought there were 4 quarters. There's only 3 quarters.
Under $1. Well, I don't know.
No, wait, I lied again. These are dimes, not nickels. I can't see. I don't have my glasses. Everyone bear with me. There's 10, 20, 30. There's $1.05.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I get
$1.05.
Going once. Anyways. Oh man, I really can't count. But
I could definitely help out one day.
Ooh,
I'll take the money. I'll need that for tonight.
He'll need it. He's going to
go.
I'm not even gonna make
it. I'm going to work tonight, so
all right. We're here. It's March 4th, another Thursday here on the Morning Buzz with your favorite ragtag group of guys. Just guys being dudes, reading the news. And Kenny, what's the first news?
I would try the voice, but I couldn't do it, so I'm just gonna go into it. Capitol Police, they say they have uncovered intelligence of a possible plot by a militia group to breach the U.S. Capitol today, nearly 2 months after mob supporters of then President Trump stormed the iconic building, trying to stop Congress from certifying the now President Joe Biden. The threat appears to be connected to a far-right conspiracy theory, mainly promoted by supporters of QAnon, that Trump will rise again to power today. That was the original presidential inauguration day until 1933, when it was moved to what is now January 20th. Online chatter, it is identified by authorities, included discussions among members of the Three Percenters, an anti-government militia group, concerning possible plots against the Capitol today. According to 2 law enforcement officers who were not authorized to speak publicly and spoke on conditions of anonymity. Members of the Three Percenters were among the extremists who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. And Capitol Police, they say that they've stepped up the security measures around the Capitol, which has been very good because it adds a physical security measures such as a fencing topped with razor wire and more members of the National Guard and Capitol Police who remain at the complex. The statement said that the agency was, quote, taking the intelligence very seriously, but provided no other specific details on the threat.
That's a lot to take in. I mean, first of all, the surface level, they're listening to intelligence more, which is a good thing because there's clear evidence of planning before what happened on January 6th. You go on TikTok, you see people saying, yeah, these liberals ain't ready for the Civil War on January 6th. Um, but just to see that they're, heeding this intelligence is already a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's something that I personally feel like the Trump administration, especially with the coronavirus, they didn't do very well with listening to intelligence and reports of scientists and
because they didn't have any intelligence. Zinger got him.
Bazinga.
Hey,
Bazinga. Man, I forgot what I was gonna say, but it's crazy to think that, they probably wouldn't if what happened on January 6th didn't happen. This would just be another like, whatever, right? But because we saw such a mind-boggling, historic event go down, things are serious now.
oh yeah, it's crazy because like I'd say before January 6th, like we would think like, oh, that is the Capitol building. That can't happen.
Yeah, nobody beats America. We're the best, except for Americans, apparently.
Well, it takes the best to beat the best, Josh. Come on.
Would you say that those people are really the best?
They might be.
Did you see that one picture of like there's an old lady just in the building? She didn't look like she knew where she was. She was just like smiling, holding a Coke, and just like in the middle of the Senate floor, like
It looked like grandma on like Easter or something.
Yeah, it's like, who brought her there? Where's her guardian? Oh man, but
That's an interesting way to cross the street.
Yeah, I was reading about this from BBC, and one of the chambers, they already canceled or they postponed their session. The Senate is still deciding to meet, just because they have important things to do. They're talking about the COVID relief bill today, but that's serious stuff.
Very.
And I just, man, I don't want to say something offensive. These views reflect myself, Josh, aka Josh, but it's such a weird conspiracy. Are all conspiracies like this? It's like the rise of Trump on March 4th, like he's a messiah.
Yeah.
Like, no, bro, he's probably watching the reruns of The Apprentice in his like hotel. I don't think he really wants to come back.
Do you think he tries to fire the room service that comes in?
He probably has.
Sure. Is it bad that yesterday when I saw this pop up on my phone, I was not shocked? Like, is that bad? Like, usually I feel like a year ago, I would have been like, what? Like, what's going on? But I wasn't shocked when I saw this story.
That's how crazy. That's the rabbit hole, the dystopian world we've divulged into. It's become just going down and down.
So many big words.
More and more. Yeah, I've been using a lot of big words lately,
Big word? Where's the dictionary?
It's in my brain.
Wow. We should call you Josh, aka Dictionary.
All right, this Kenny, you gotta stop.
I'm not good at nicknames. You guys all know that.
Josh, aka Dictionary.
Oh, God.
So for our next story, we're gonna get right into the next story because this is one that personally made me happy. Because you'll find out after I'm done with it. But we talked about it a little bit in the newscast. New Jersey this week, we quietly added 11 more medical conditions that make people eligible to receive the vaccine in our state. This happened Monday when Governor Murphy announced that the state will significantly expand the vaccine eligibility to include several hundreds of thousands of more New Jerseyans over the next 4 weeks. Pre-K through 12th grade teachers and then childcare and transportation workers are going to become eligible March 15th. And then frontline essential employees, including restaurant workers and grocery store employees will become eligible on the 19th. These conditions include the 11 new conditions: asthma, moderate to severe, cerebral vascular disease, cystic fibrosis, hypertension, which is also high blood pressure, an immunocompromised state, neurologic conditions, liver disease, being overweight, and if you're curious about that, obesity was already eligible, but this itself, being like greater than 25, is overweight. Pulmonary fibrosis, and a blood disorder called thalassemia, and type 1 diabetes. This makes me happy. this makes me really happy because I thought a lot of this stuff was already on the list for things that were allowed. And I remember being annoyed. It's like, I have asthma. I'm immunocompromised too. That's not fair. Why didn't I get the chance? It's because apparently it wasn't a thing.
That's interesting. One of the, I would say, most common respiratory afflictions, asthma, isn't on the list for a compromisation for one of the most known respiratory viruses.
Yeah, I was
It
surprised.
seems like a natural connection. Like, oh yeah, the people with this need it because if they get it, they're kaputs.
Yeah, surprised me a lot. But now, do you know what I'm doing after the show? I am calling whoever I have to call.
I am making it happen.
That's right.
I'm just glad that after a slow start to the vaccine process, things are starting to expand more and more, and hopefully, like President Biden said, we can have mass vaccinations by May. And maybe then we could open 100%. Maybe
Shouts to Texas there
and Mississippi too,
and Mississippi.
And
yep.
Mississippi?
Texas and Mississippi. Let's just make that our next story. Both of them, they're governors, right?
Yeah.
Governors decided to reopen at 100% capacity, just try to open everything up, despite what every health official says.
Yeah, that's crazy. My brother lives in
mask.
Texas, so I'm curious.
They lifting the mask mandate. I did read an article this morning while searching for stories that some businesses are still requiring people to wear masks because at the end of the day, it is their business. They decide and they have to protect their employees as well as the customers,
So
even if the customers may not want to wear masks. But I mean, it's really crazy that they're just lifting it because it wasn't near the beginning of the pandemic. I have to look this up just to double check, but it was Texas that was experiencing such an overflow of hospitals and such a mass death that they were putting, like, the morgues were full. They didn't have places for people that had passed, so they were putting them in trucks outside. Like, that's straight up, not to use the word again, that's dystopian.
Gotta say it a third time later on, but that's insane. I didn't even know about that until just now.
Like, do they not remember 6 months ago?
It's very irresponsible whether they're thinking about because spring break's coming up for some schools. Let's think about that. The coronavirus strains are emerging everywhere. There's a New York strain, California strain, and there's a lot of doctors in Texas that just think there's going to be another surge. And yesterday, Texas reported over 7,000 cases. New Jersey has 2,000 cases a day, and we're still at 35% capacity. So,
it's just
handling when you consider,
especially after the storm.
Yeah,
like they're even more vulnerable now. And a little segue, we will have an interview about the storm later this show, so stay tuned if you want to hear that. But I found an article from the New York Post, which I don't really trust, but it's photos show Texas inmates stacking COVID-19 dead outside overflowing morgue. So not only that, they had inmates, prison labor, dealing with these diseased bodies of citizens that
is terrible.
Killed. But at the end of the day, it's just bad, because there's sort of a level of knowledge and compliance when it comes to, this kind of stuff for government officials. At one point, somebody had to go up to the governor and say, hey, we don't have enough space for all this. This kind of thing is happening. And he has to take that knowledge and still decide to move forward with this kind of reopening, right? And it brings a more ethical question into, like, what exactly your intentions are. Nobody truly knows what someone's intention is other than themselves, right? Am I helping these people because I want to help them, or I want to make myself feel good? You never know if it's a selfish, even if it's for good, a selfish reason or not. So when it comes to the governor opening these states? Is he doing it to purposefully harm people? Which you would say, oh no, of course not. He just wants the economy or something he wants things to be better. But I mean, if you have no citizens, are you really helping anyone at that point? But I think there's a level of accountability that we have to hold people to, even if they say they're not doing it intentionally. I think too often we let people, especially people with power and political status and platform, we let them get away with doing things just because. We have to hold people accountable and like force them to kind of, even if you don't mean to do something harmful, educate yourself so you know the steps to avoid that accident instead of just saying, oh, it was an accident, it's fine. You know what I mean? I think I rambled a bit.
No, that was a valid ramble. It was a valid ramble. I know,
But
it reminds me of Ted Cruz going to, what was it? I can't remember.
Cancun.
Cancun. It's similar.
I mean, and then man, sometimes I hate Twitter. It's such a horrible
Texas
place
is
reading
not doing
the
good.
comments. Texas is getting battered right now, and not even those poor residents. I feel bad for some of them because they have no control over what happens. Their senator is going to Cancun when they're freezing. The New York senator is doing more for them than their own senator. And I think that's one of the bigger, stories of this, that a senator from another state is organizing better than your own. Because people want to say, oh, Ted Cruz, he's a representative. He's supposed to be in DC deciding stuff for us. He's not supposed to be on the ground helping you. Then what is AOC doing over there? You know what I mean?
And even then, he's supposed to be in DC. Why is he in Cancun?
And then gloating about going to Cancun at CPAC. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh, man, I don't even want to.
I don't get it. I don't get it anymore.
It's a weird world.
Weird world. Speaking of weird news, we have a one that, if this happened to me, I would be jumping for joy forever. So, in the tale of stuff of yard sale legend, a small porcelain bowl sold its $35 asking price. Turns out it is super rare 15th century Chinese artifact worth up to $500,000.
Whoa.
A man from Connecticut bought the bowl from a yard sale near New Haven last year, and he emailed photos of it to Sotheby's seeking an valuation. And appraisers, they determined it dates back to the Ming Dynasty of the early 1400s. And this man, he bought the bowl from the yard sale. And I wish that was me. I want that to happen to me.
Yeah, but would you be the type to go to a yard sale and buy an old bowl?
I've been to yard sales.
Okay, that's a step up for me. Whenever I hear stories like this, I'm amazed, and I get that little sense of jealousy, like, oh, I want to stumble across that kind of artifact. But I feel like if I would, I'd have no clue. And that bowl would literally just be an art piece on my like end table forever.
Well, I'm sure that's how this guy bought this.
Yeah, and then just at a personal level for me, I'm like, does he just know an appraiser? How does he think to get it appraised? That's what I think is interesting in these kinds of things.
He's probably looking at
I don't know an appraiser. Where would I even go?
Pretty fancy. Maybe I'll see how much it's worth.
That's logical. I just wouldn't know where to go.
Yeah. Is there like a hotline or something?
Ming Dynasty.
The Ming Dynasty.
Way back. What year was the Ming Dynasty?
They said early 1400s for that.
Early 1400s.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's over 600 years ago.
Colombo. Quick maths.
Well, you'll see me at the nearest yard sale soon.
Yeah, how did that end up in New Haven? New Haven, Connecticut.
Right, of all places. I wonder what
Chinese artifact.
Over 600 years. What had to happen for that to end up in New Haven, Connecticut?
You know what that sounds like to me, Kenny?
What?
That sounds like a new Pixar short. We're going to find out how this bowl started in the Ming Dynasty in China and ended up in New Haven, Connecticut. And it's going to be pretty emotional, I bet.
Yes, that's right. The story of the bowl, artifact of the Ming.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a loving family crafting it on the kiln, the pottery kiln. And then I don't know, war, and then it loses, it gets thrown into a sack of all these other bowls, and these other bowls, some of them are used for like shot put training, and they're just mistreated. But then this one bowl, he'll persevere, then he gets liberated, and he's floating in the ocean to Connecticut or something. It's probably not that interesting, but I like to think it is. I have faith in the little bowl that could.
The little bowl that could.
Or they'll call it perseverance.
Perseverance.
That's
I like
the
that.
short. Yeah.
I like
that. I like that. It was also said to be the first one of these bowls found in America. And there really aren't that many. The other ones that are found of this type, they're in museums, somewhere around the world. So this is the first one in America. Like I said, how over 600 years?
That's some good pottery.
That's a good point. 600 years, that's like what? 8, 9 generations of people?
I think that's a little more. No, is it? I guess it depends.
Well, considering death rates a while ago, probably more.
Oh, yeah, but then you have to consider birth, like life expectancy. Was everybody living to 100 when they had like their next generation?
Well, that would just be 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like my mom had me when she was 30. So in 100 years, there's probably 3 generations of my family. So that's like 20 generations closer.
Yeah, that's just, I'm curious how it happened.
Hey, I'm saying Disney, you want to hire me? I'll do some investigation. Pixar.
Internship starting soon.
Internships. I'm available. As my LinkedIn says, I'm open for work.
Someone say internships? That's like the secret word.
That's the key word.
Who said it?
You got to dump it.
It's like Beetlejuice. Someone says it 3 times. I'm like, huh?
Whoa. Calm down there, Kenny.
Hey, I just said Beetlejuice twice.
Oh, hey. We're going to take a quick break here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. When we come back, Kenny will not say the forbidden word. We'll get into going to break.
This is Mike Myers, and you're listening to the sauciest college station on this frequency.
Oh, sauciest. And we're back here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. I am Josh, aka Josh, and this is the Morning Buzz with Josh, Kenny, Ryan, and Isaiah. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. It's ASMR time, palate cleanser. Hello? Friends?
Hello.
How are you? We had to get away from the accursed words.
What word?
No, don't worry about it, Kenny. It's in the past. It's
in the past. Don't worry. Okay.
Voldemort.
Going back to break. He who shall not be named.
Well, you know who shall be named? Isaiah Ramirez, our event host. Isaiah, come on in. Tell us what's going on.
What is going on, everyone? I have a question for, I guess, everyone here. Have you guys ever had like a terrible roommate? Like someone is just like
twice,
not appealing at all. Like nothing about them is redeeming.
Okay. Yes, I would say so.
Well,
easily
find their number and give them this Zoom link, because today at Montclair, it is a how to be a good roommate Zoom meeting. And, you know, you get to learn all the ways to just be all around a better person, you know? Don't be a terrible roommate, guys. Not that hard.
No, you say that.
You know, I had some pretty bad experiences my first semester here because I dormed here. And then, you know, I was just like, you know, I'd just be a commuter, Isaiah. It's not the move.
That's smart.
Yeah. All right. Now, if anyone is looking to, you know, kind of activate their third eye, do I have the opportunity for you? Because later today, you know, clean out your mind. Because at Thursday, 6 p.m., you can do some yoga at the Student Rec Center. And, you know, it's a great opportunity for people to just, you know, maybe take a break from their homework or classes and all that stuff. So it's going to be in the multi-purpose room 1. You do have to register online because you can't just walk into things these days. And yeah, finally, we have the most are, in my opinion, the most anticipated event of this week. You know, I feel the electricity in the air when I woke up today, and I was like, you know what? Today's the day. I'm hyped for it. So today, I'm here to announce that at March 4th, 2021, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to be part of a chess tournament online, guys.
Oh my gosh, the chess tournament.
Chess tournament, and I don't mean to just throw this upon you guys, but this is like almost like biggest event for me of the whole year. This is my Grammys, this is my Emmys, you know?
Is
And
it
that's what I got.
exclusive to MSU students?
Yeah, it is. It's run by like the Gamers Association here, and then you
Ooh.
just register like on the Google form. But yeah, but if you're into chess, definitely go for it, guys.
I know how the horsey moves.
You ever hear about chess boxing?
That's a
Oh,
thing.
is that when you like move a pawn and then you punch your opponent in the face?
Kind of. It's I think it's a professional sport where you do like a certain amount of time or moves playing chess, and then you get up and you start boxing.
What?
Yeah, you heard that?
That's interesting. That sounds like a Wii sports game or something.
Yeah.
I
It's like
played
something.
that Wii Sports.
I was like, how can we market this chess game to kids? What if we just have them beat each other up at the end? Brilliance! Sell it, ship it, make it a part of the console.
Tired of your older brother? Play this Wii game.
Want to hit your younger brother without your mother yelling at you? Tell her it's a part of the game.
Mom, it's just a game.
Man.
Just a game, Mom. Just doing the instructions.
It's
That's
not my
great.
fault. He wanted to play it.
Yeah, he
Oh,
told me
man.
he wanted to play. I'm just choosing.
But I used to be in the chess club in high school for like a year.
Oh,
Or was
Were
that
you
middle
good?
school? I think it was middle school. No, I wasn't. I don't know any gambits or anything. I just kind of like wanted to learn how to play.
Yeah, I don't know what goes into just the whole idea of chess. It's too much for me. There's too many rules. Shoots and ladders is my thing, though.
I know how to play chess, but not checkers.
What do you mean? Checkers is so much easier.
I've just never gotten the chance to learn checkers.
You just move diagonally.
I still don't get it.
No, I mean, I understand that.
It's
The one
never
thing that
caught on.
annoys me about checkers is that you don't use half the spaces on the board.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And just
Right.
like, why? You know? But anyway, checkers, chess, that should be interesting. Man, it's events like this I would like love to broadcast. And I'm sure they're streaming it live
Yeah, I think they probably
probably.
are.
on Twitch or something. But, you know, they're bound to be profane, I would guess. Chess gets pretty intense.
You ever
And
watch
get
it?
heated up. Yeah, I did. There's on Twitch, which is the primary like gaming streaming service. There's a big chess resurgence where everyone's favorite streamer or media personality was, you know, playing chess.
Is that real?
Some of them are really smart and they're good at chess. Yeah, it was real. It was like a Twitch Rivals
Oh.
chess tournament. I don't think it was too long ago, but
Is it just me, or like, if you play chess, do you ever feel like it's a battle for like intelligence? Like I get scared. Like if I lose, like
yeah,
what
it's
does
like
that say
flexing
about
your
me?
brain, you know?
What does that say about me?
Showing your
remember-
IQ. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was on vacation, and our neighbor, he came with us, and he brought a chessboard. He brought a chessboard and said, "Hey, want to play chess?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Didn't thinking he had one. He had one. And I was like, "Oh no, this guy brought a chessboard on vacation. That means he knows how to play."
You were done as soon as he asked if you
I
wanted to
actually
play.
beat him.
Whoa.
Wow.
Or did he let you? So that the next time it's even more devastating you lose.
You know what, Josh? You know what?
Mind games.
You know what? Beetlejuice.
Oh, he said it.
Oh,
That's it.
no.
We have
Third
to.
time. Third time.
I don't feel comfortable in the studio anymore. I feel creepy crawlies all over my back. Ew. But for real reasons, we have a special interview we're going to be airing as of right now that Kenny and I conducted earlier this week. We spoke to a professor at the Earth, oh my God, I actually said Earth and Environmental Sciences Department about the winter storm that happened in Texas and what it means for climate change and the future of climates in our country?
You're listening to the Morning Buzz on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. I am co-host of the Thursday show, Kenny Horn, here with the other host. You say your name?
Josh, aka Josh.
I'm still working on the nickname. And we are sitting here with Professor Josh Galster from the Environmental Department of Montclair State University. Hi, Professor. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me, Kenny.
All right. So we're talking to you because of what recently happened in Texas, and we want to talk about climate change and spread more awareness. So the first question that we want to get into for you is, what are the short-term consequences of climate change?
Sure. So in the near term, we're going to see more events like this, more of these kind of weather events that are outside what we would call kind of usual. And there's a climate scientist actually in Texas. Her name is Catherine Heo. And one of the expressions that she likes to refer to this is called global weirding. So it kind of takes global warming, but puts it in terms of global weirding. And just weather events that would be weird, unusual, different, are probably going to become more frequent. And in terms of short-term consequences, as human systems, we respond really well to crises. And sometimes we're a little lazy up until something needs to be done, whether it's students completing an exam, professors working on deadlines for when grades need to be submitted, or heck, when like something really big happens, like the winter weather in Texas. So, we tend to respond when there's crises. So it depends on how much we react to this or not. I guess we'll wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I've grown up in New Jersey my whole life. So we've experienced snow here. We experience rain. We have facilities that are capable of dealing with it. And sometimes you may want it to be better. Sometimes I complain the plow isn't good enough near my house, and I still have to shovel the whole driveway, or the plow comes by and it re-snows all the things I've shoveled. But for Texas, and specifically a city like Austin that practically averages 0 inches, although that's, impossible. Sometimes it may average 0.2, 0.3 inches of snow per year. How does this sudden flurry affect urban communities and surrounding environments?
Yeah, so these weather events can have really big impacts on them. So the weather in Texas, they certainly do sometimes get snow, like you mentioned, Josh. And so what's changed, though, is that, climate change is typically a slow process. Climate change is talking about change over decades, a couple of decades, sort of about the length of your lives. I'm just guessing, looking at you, too. So, it's talking about 20, 30 years, at least, that we're talking about. So when I was growing up in the 1970s, things were colder. And so cold weather was more normal, both here in New Jersey and elsewhere. But we've gradually become warmer and warmer and warmer. And so we have events like these that have happened before. Texas had a big cold snap about 10 years ago that caused power issues to their power grids. And, at the time, people warned them that, hey, things should be upgraded. The power facility should be made more weatherproof, things like that. And it's unfortunate, though, when those kind of warnings don't get listened to, and then prices get paid like this. So, what happened in Texas is a good illustration of the difference, though, between climate change, which is that long-term process over a couple of decades, and weather. And weather is that short-term, is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? And that changes all the time. And weather is short-term things. If you want to see what it's going to be like tomorrow, you look at the weather forecast. If you want to know what some place is supposed to be like, that's climate. So we can have winter weather in Texas. That doesn't mean we're disproving climate change or anything. And one of the reasons we have that is that as something like the jet stream, which is this big current of air that circulates around the northern hemisphere, that becomes less stable. And so it actually becomes more likely for these big kind of bulges or big air masses of cold air to come down from the North Pole and make things really cold for a short spell. So in some ways it's counterintuitive, but we might get more of these kind of Arctic air masses coming down to places like Texas as we get warmer.
It's interesting that you bring up the point of climate change is decades in the future, even though it's still happening currently. A lot of the effects are in the future. And that makes me think about what are some of the long-term consequences of climate change?
Yeah. And so climate change takes place over decades, but it's been happening long enough that we're now seeing the effects. So it's a slow process, but it's been adding up. So it's something that doesn't happen, instantly. It's not a switch that's flipped, but it's this gradual, slow process. Just, I don't know, like adding traffic to it. So long-term consequence, like look, adding cars to the highway. Traffic is worse now than it used to be. Or actually, well, these days, right now, it's better because of the pandemic. But a year ago, it would have been worse because everyone was driving. But it's not like that traffic all of a sudden appeared on New Jersey's road. It got steadily worse and worse and worse as more roads were built, more people drove everywhere. Long-term consequences, gosh, there's a whole slew. But I'll focus here on New Jersey since that's, I think, the community we're talking to mostly. We're going to have more flooding, and that flooding is going to come from both storms that are going to drop a lot of precipitation, like we saw with Hurricane Irene, which dropped so much rain that it caused lots of flooding on rivers. So we're going to have more storms like that. We're also going to have flooding on the coasts as we get more hurricanes like Sandy that cause flooding near the Jersey Shore, and that's from sea level rise. We're going to have not just warmer days, but warmer nights, and that affects urban communities that you were mentioning before, Josh. Cities absorb heat really well. We've all experienced this as we've walked across a parking lot on a hot summer day, and that blacktop just radiates the heat. You go to your car on an August day, and your car feels like it's 1,000,000 degrees. Well, cities do that on a big scale, and so they absorb that heat. And it really affects those communities that can't afford things like air conditioning. As nights get warmer, that can cause big effects because what our bodies are used to are these cooler nights. And so it can have big impacts on health, especially for those communities that can't afford things like air conditioning.
Okay.
Wow, I never even thought of it like that. You bring up a great analogy with the blacktop on a warm summer day, getting in your car. If you have leather seats, you can't even get in the car.
Yeah, those are the worst, right? So imagine that over a whole city, right? Where it stays hot. And so it's something called the urban heat island effect. These cities just warm up really fast and they stay warm and they don't cool off. So those can have big impacts on people's health.
But is there a way to, as little humans just inhabiting this world, to cool off those cities? Measures in place other than temporarily like putting on the AC for one individual?
Right. That would cool off like the apartment, say. Yeah, there are some things you can do. And actually, we've done one of those things here on campus. So there's the CELS building, the Center for Environmental Life Sciences. And it's a fairly new building, about 5 years old, something like that. And what they did was they put plants on the roof. So it's called a green roof. Scientists are really boring when it comes to naming stuff. What should we call a roof that has a bunch of plants on it? I don't know. Let's call it a green roof. So those plants will actually absorb some of the heat and make things generally less warm. So they'll cool things off. So that's one way we could do those kind of things. If we're concerned about too much heat, think of the color of buildings in a place like Florida or New Mexico. They're all light colored houses. They're white or tan or pink or whatever. And they do that not because they have different taste in color, but because those colors don't absorb as much heat. Light colors reflect heat better than dark colors. So that blacktop absorbs outside around campus, like on the student center or something, and it's especially a bright sunny day, and it's really glary. That's all that energy being reflected off. So we could make our cities basically different colors. We could make them lighter if we're concerned about heat. If you're a place like, I don't know, Alaska, well, then you're probably still too worried about things being too cold. So you would still want to suck up as much as your heat as you can. Here in New Jersey, we're kind of on the border because, you guys mentioned we have cold winters, but we have warm summers. But as climate change shifts, we're going to want to kind of get rid of that heat more than we were going to want to capture it.
That's super interesting because the Earth and Environment class I took last semester mentioned that a little bit in specifics with Arizona and their different colored, I think it was a McDonald's that instead of like the typical color, it was a cyan or it was brighter.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Instead of that like dark red roof of a McDonald's, yeah, you could paint it something light, that bright yellow they have. That's kind of obnoxious in my opinion, right? And that would reflect the heat better than that red. So sure. Yeah. Let's get Ronald McDonald to be environmentally aware. Sounds good to me.
It helps the environment and we get nice, pretty colored buildings.
That's right. And food, but
I don't think the burgers are going to be colored.
That's a good point.
It would be fun too, but moving on to the next question. In the news, we've heard the first-hand accounts of families struggling during this event to find shelter and warmth. Yet I know on our previous episode of The Buzz, when we discussed this, there was another population that was impacted, sea turtles. What does this rapid flux in climate mean for the species that call these areas home in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, so it is really sad, and I'm sure lots of folks, listening might have seen those pictures of sea turtles being stored in like moving trucks and hotel rooms and other things because they were trying to keep them warm enough because those sea turtles just weren't adapted to temperatures like that. And we as humans tend to have a lot of compassion for animals, sometimes more for animals than other people. Think of like some action movie, right? If they really want to make the scene really scary, they'll put a dog that's slightly in danger. And then, oh my gosh, so everyone's heart rate will quicken and like, oh no, not the dog. You can't let the dog get hurt. Um, so we have a lot of compassion for these animals. But I think what we can take away from these animals is that they're kind of showing us potential warning signs of things that might come to be in our future. So if sea turtles are having trouble adapting, or birds, or frogs and amphibians, okay, well, maybe we don't care that much about sea turtles, but really, they're more sensitive to it than we are. And so they're kind of like showing us what our future might be. We as humans are pretty adaptable species. We've gone, we live on all the continents except Antarctica, we've spread across the globe, but we're adaptable because we're able to kind of depend on that environment being somewhat stable and, having the temperature and the precipitation be somewhat stable. So we think of what the conditions in December are like, or December conditions in June are like, or whatever time of year you like. We're used to those conditions being the way they are, and climate change is going to disrupt that. And so I think what we can take away from those species is obviously concern for them, but also if we're just taking a selfish point of view, like, hey, what's in it for us? Well, they're kind of showing us what might happen. And it goes back to that old analogy of the canary in the coal mine. Coal miners used to, 100 years ago, they would take these pretty little canaries down to the coal mines with them, not for companionship as much as they were the testers for poisonous gas. They didn't have meters and other things. And so if you looked over and you saw your pretty little canary dead in the cage next to you, you knew it was time to get out of that mine. Well, some of these other species that are having trouble adapting to climate might be kind of our modern day equivalent of the canary in the coal mine.
Wow. The way you phrase that question, it really, obviously we're aware that this is a real problem, but it heightens it because we're, like you said, people are compassionate towards animals. And this is not the first time we've seen something like this with animals, but an event like this, it makes us wonder if this is just some weird event or if this is going to be something that's going to be happening often and something that we should come to expect of winter storms or even just heat things. I don't remember how I
yeah more unusual weather, I think, is something we should come to expect, unfortunately. And this weather event in Texas was the first $1 billion, so billion with a B, $1 billion natural event causing damage causing events. So hurricanes, earthquakes, things like that. And we used to only have, I think it was about 5 to 6 per year, and now we're averaging closer to 20 in terms of these big weather events: flooding, drought, the wildfires in California, this weather in Texas. And any one event, you can't really pin it on climate change if you just talk about one hurricane or one wildfire, because we've had hurricanes in the past, we've had wildfires in the past. One of the analogies I like is you think about a road that has a lot more traffic on it, and that traffic is going a lot faster. It makes accidents more likely to happen, and those accidents to be worse. Now, did that road have accidents before? Sure. But with lots of extra traffic on it, and that traffic may be moving at a faster pace, those accidents happen more frequently, and those accidents get worse in terms of their damage. And that's what climate change is doing. So as we get warmer, hurricanes, which use heat as their energy, those get a little bit bigger. Wildfires, as drought gets worse, those get a little bit worse. And so these things that were naturally occurring, and we'll have hurricanes millions of years into the future, whether or not humans are here or not, we're making them sort of extra charge. We're giving them some extra boost through climate change.
Okay. At the radio station and really across the school media this semester, we're doing a lot of focus on racial injustice, and we're curious about how climate change and many other things can affect people from minority backgrounds. Can you speak to how different races are affected?
Sure. Yeah, this is something that's really big because climate change is affecting communities that don't have the resources to really adapt. So we've talked about those ability to like turn on air conditioning or potentially even move away. If your community is no longer livable, then who has the resources to move away? Well, it tends, communities these days that don't tend to have as many resources tends to be community of color, immigrants, maybe those who don't speak English as their first language, and they're not then able to adapt as well as others. People who can flee to their, I don't know, second house up in the mountains to get farther away from flooding or cooler. That is a different response than those people who are stuck, in their maybe apartment in the city that has that urban heat island effect that we have a lot more. So climate change, unfortunately, is taking a big toll on some of these disadvantaged communities. And then also nationally. So, internationally, some countries are forecasted to really actually disappear. There's some countries that are basically built on islands in the South Pacific that are really low. You think of like, if you go to the Jersey Shore and everything is just kind of one big pile of sand and it's barely above the ocean. Well, that's kind of what the whole nation looks like for some of these smaller nations. And so some of these nations are forecasted to just be really gone, like within your lifetimes. So this isn't something that's thousands of years down the road. So, immigration and what to do about immigrants was a it's important to know that some of those nations have not contributed as many greenhouse gases, burning gasoline and coal and natural gas as, say, others have. So some nations are facing the consequences when they really haven't done much to cause it.
That it makes it really evident just how far down this road that we've gotten. And is there anything we can do to correct the course and change paths?
Sure. So yes, it's bleak. And it can be terrifying if you get lost in it too much. But like any long-term project, you have to chip away at it with small actions. And the sooner we start, the better. So again, using a traffic analogy, we're in New Jersey, we all understand traffic. The sooner we know about a problem with traffic, the more options we have to correct it. So in terms of traffic, you can like slow down and just, not come crashing to a halt. You can get off at a different exit. You can take a different route, whatever it is. You can leave earlier. Well, with climate, the sooner we act, the more options we have. We can change energy sources, so use less fossil fuels and shift to more renewables like wind and hydropower, solar power, those kind of things. And those were not the problem in Texas power generation. Those, some politicians have said, well, it was the green infrastructure that failed. And there were a few windmills that went out of production during the winter storms they had down there, but still they get most of their power from coal and natural gas. So it was those systems that failed them, not the green power. We can reduce our impact, travel less, have disposable things be used less. And so those individual actions can add up. And the sooner we start those, the better. But we also then need to advocate on a bigger scale. So, what are the politicians that we elect? What policies do they support? And I think it's all is a regional and global issue. We can't do this ourselves, and we can't take ourselves out of the problem. The United States just recently re-entered what's called the Paris Accord, this climate agreement we pledged to help fight climate change. That was done under the Biden administration. And those kind of things are important because it's this global issue that we're going to have to solve together. And we've done it in the past. When I was your age, a big issue was the aerosols used in things like hairspray and the aerosols used to make styrofoam, and that was killing the ozone layer, especially down by the Antarctic. And that was really worrisome because the ozone layer protects us from the UV rays from the sun. And so, the globe basically got together and said, hey, we shouldn't make these chemicals anymore. They're called chlorofluorocarbons. And they said, hey, so if we can, not do this, we can correct this problem. Well, climate change is a bigger problem, but it's going to take similar cooperation. So, I'm cautiously optimistic, especially, looking at the next generation of folks like the two of you coming up, that, there's going to be bright folks to help solve some of these problems.
Oh, you're making me gush. You call me bright. But Professor, thank you for joining us today. It was a very informative and very fun to speak to you. And we share the same name, it's Josh's.
Exactly. We got to stick together, right? So, no, I really had a lot of fun. It's always good to communicate this. This is a topic when I cover it in class. I always view it as the most important part of the entire class, basically. Volcanoes are interesting and cool and whatever, this other topic, but, climate change, it's going to affect all of us. And, we may not be passionate about the environment and climate change. Maybe our passion is, like you mentioned, Kenny, racial injustice, or it's women's rights, or it's food insecurity. And all those things, though, depend on a pretty stable climate that we can count on. So we can have enough food and not have enough, flooding and all those other things, so that we can tackle some of these other problems. So it really is, kind of this underlying structure for which we can really improve things. But we need to have that in the first place, this nice, stable climate that we can count on.
That's great, Professor. Once again, thank you for sitting in with us. You've been listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This is the Morning Buzz. We'll be back tomorrow.